Hey guys, Scott Patton here. I want to talk to you today about, we're going in that time of year where red is really important. Red baits are good anytime the water's cold, below 55 degrees, really about, is when I use them most of the time. But I'll use them all through February and March real heavily. And then it seems like as we get into April, you're kind of losing that. The first 10 days of April, depending on what part of the country you're in, red can really be a dominant color. But bass just love red in the springtime when the water's cold. I couldn't tell you exactly why, but it catches fish and it's proven. So you've got to make sure you're fishing them, okay? I'm gonna go through a few of the crankbaits that I use in the springtime that are red. A lot of these are shallow runners, and you don't have to have just shallow runners. It's some I dug out of the boat real fast. I'll still throw deeper running crankbaits. Especially in my Lucky Crafts and the DT series, DT10s and DT6s and Rapalas. Also in the springtime, I don't have none of those here, but you'll want to use some of these colors in those baits too, especially in February, later February, when they're still a little bit deeper. In March, they're going to start pushing up shallower on these shallow rocky banks and back in the creek channels on bluff walls and stuff like that. But let's kind of go through some of these, and I'll show you what I like to use, and hopefully they'll help you guys out too. Okay, I'm going to start out with some of my Lucky Craft, square bills, which I throw a lot of different square bills. These are from all different companies. I've been sponsored with Lucky Craft for a long time, and I use a lot of their stuff. I love their stuff. Their baits are durable, and the paint to stay on them and stuff like that, so they're really good baits. This is one that I use from Lucky Craft is a 1.5. We'll have the color down in the description on these for you guys. I'm gonna just kind of go through them, but this is a 1.5. I'll throw it a lot, and then I'll go to, also you want to throw the 2.5s as well, you guys. I know sometimes some of you think that a 2.5 is maybe going to be too big early when the water's cold, but the deal is it depends on really the lake you're fishing. If you're fishing a lake that doesn't have a lot of big fish, maybe the 2.5 will be too big. But this is not a big bait compared to most fish. Even a 2-pound bass, that is not a large bait for that fish. Now if the water's below 50 degrees, it may be more than he wants to eat, but they will eat it depending on the lake. Now if I'm fishing a lake, like Pickwick, Chickamauga, any of those, Gunnersville, any of those lakes that do have big fish in them, this time, that time of year, I will tend to throw the bigger baits, especially if I got a good warming trend, because I'm trying to target those bigger fish. If you got a 2-pound bass and he's looking at this, or if you got a 7-pound bass and he's looking at this, this isn't as big of a meal to a 7-pound bass as this is to a 2-pound bass, okay? So that's why if you're really catching quality fish when you're out fishing in the springtime, you'll want to go to that bigger bait, you guys. And again, that depends on the lake you're fishing. You gotta do your research and see what kind of bags usually it takes to catch, to do well on those lakes. So, on the lakes that's got better quality fish, guys, don't be afraid to throw that 2.5 in your red colors in the springtime, okay? And also, guys, I'll even go up to, when Kentucky Lake was real good, I got it all the time on Kentucky Lake in the springtime. This is really good on Chickamauga, and also it is a good bait on any lake that you have big fish. So Lucky Craft 3.5. Again, you can see the difference between the 1.5 and the 3.5. But again, guys, if you're in a lake that's got quality fish and it's been warm, especially mid-March, late March, those big females are going to be coming up. So they may pass up this as a meal, but you throw that in there and crank it real slow, you'll catch some giants on this. Now, I used to do that all the time on Kentucky Lake. I still do it on Chickamauga. And if I go to Pickwick, Gunnersville, any of those Tennessee River lakes, or any lake that's fishing, I don't care if you're in Texas on the Sam Rayburn, Toledo Bend, any of them. If it's late in the spring, late in the winter, early in the spring, and you got big fish around, don't be afraid to throw that 3.5 in that Lucky Craft, okay? It will catch them, again, in the red crawfish colors. They're always good. This is my Lucky Craft Kelly J, flat-sided crankbaits. I've talked to you about them before. You know, in the springtime in the reds, you want to make sure you got those. You know, that flat-sided crankbait will give a different wobble versus a more rounded crankbait. And sometimes, you know, these are really fished a lot in the springtime. If you're fishing like this, got a lot of pressure on it, or there's been some big tournaments on it, you can. And a lot of guys won't be fishing that flat-sided crankbait. It gives a different wobble. Okay, so if you're throwing just a regular square bill, you're not getting bit. Try that flat-sided crankbait, because I'm telling you, you can go behind guys and fish it and catch fish that are guys are throwing just the standard 1.5, because of the vibrations giving off, a different wobbles giving off, and it just looks different. This fish is something they haven't seen 20 or 30 times down some of these banks that everybody's fishing. Okay, so keep that in mind. You know, I've always done real good on that Lucky Craft Kelly J. This is another flat-sided crankbait. This is a Spro Little John. It's always been a good flat-sided crankbait as well, you guys. I've caught a ton of fish on this thing too. You can get this bait, crank it down in there, crank it real slow on 15, 17-pound line. That thing will just wobble like that, moves a lot of water. It doesn't travel real far, real fast. It still has a lot of action in that strike zone, and that's why I like that Kelly J and that Little John can be excellent baits when the water is cold. Okay, those Strike Kings came out with the Chick Magnet. You know, they got it in 2 different sizes. Both of these in these 2-color red in the springtime. You want to have those in a boat with you too, you guys. You know, they're flat-sided crankbaits versus the standard 1.5s in your standard square bills. Okay, guys. Another bait that I've used for years. This is old school right here. Here's the old Bomber 7A. I couldn't tell you how many fish I catch on this thing. It's just got a wobble, and it dives down to that depth, about that 5 to 6 foot zone. That and it's just the action of it. I don't know what it is about it. I've been fishing this thing for 20 years or more, and I still use it all the time in the springtime. You know, in the month of March, because it just catches fish. You know, this crawfish color one in the red again, you guys, and that's basically what we're talking about in this video, is, you know, importance of red crankbaits, red baits in the early spring season. Okay, so, you know, I'm telling you what, that Bomber that just got a different bill on it, you can see, if you guys haven't fished this thing, you want to get some of those and fish them, because there's times that, especially those fish are holding that 5 to 7 foot zone, they haven't moved up in that 1 to 4 foot zone, that bait to get down there, and it has a good wide wobble. You can crank it real slow, it'll catch fish for you early in the spring too. And you know, you can't go in the springtime, you know, in March or late February. You've got to have your vibrating baits. I use a variety of different brands, and I use a variety of different red colors. Okay, this is a small profile. You know, I use that. That's a Lucky Craft right there. And this right here is a regular rattle trap. That's a 1/4 ounce baits. You can see the size of them. A lot of times when the water's really cold, late February and March, you can throw that vibrating bait. You don't want to fish it real fast. You want to fish it as slow as you can. A lot of times I like to throw that bait out there and let it fall to the bottom on shallow points and stuff like that, if it's in gravel, and just crank that thing just fast enough. I want a rod that, a rod where I can feel that bait, what that bait's doing, because I want to feel it bouncing along the bottom of that. Same thing with your square bills and stuff too, you guys. You want to try to make bottom contact with that thing, make that thing deflect off any bigger rocks or a stump or anything you got in there. And slow is key here. But back to the vibrating baits, I'll drag that thing along the bottom like that. I'll even stop it. I'll even hop it and fish it like a jig. I'll throw it out there. I'll hop it and let it fall. Reel my slack as I'm letting it, instead of working the bait and let it fall. Hop it like a jig. It's something about that bait coming up and vibrating back down. Them fish just can't stand it sometimes. It looks like a crawfish is what it is. Sometimes those fish just can't stand it. But, I will, most of the time, I won't usually throw a 3/4 ounce that early in the year. This is a 1/2 ounce Lucky Craft LV 500, a great bait. This is the Strike King. This color here is more of a carp color. This is a real good color in early in the spring, especially if you guys are fishing Chickamauga. I'm telling you what, they'll eat that color up. I'm getting back more to your reds and stuff. But you know, there's another Strike King. This is a Strike King bait, another good color. Lucky Craft also has it in that dark red. You kind of gotta play with the colors of red, you guys. You can't just pick out just one color red crankbait and go out there and think you're going to catch fish. Sometimes on a sunny day or a cloudy day, those darker reds versus the brighter, more orange reds can make a big difference. So you know, be open-minded. You know, have a good selection of red baits, crankbaits, and vibrating baits in the springtime. And you know, if you will, you go out there and fish those things. Don't fish these things on too light a line, you guys. You can catch some big fish this time of year. I'll hardly fish any of these on anything lighter than 15-pound Seaguar. So you know, don't go in there in 10 and 12-pound line all the time and fish some of these lakes. There's times where you got to go to that lighter line if you're fishing really clear lakes, you know, especially if I went to Del Hollow or something like that, Lake Cumberland there in Kentucky. I would probably go to that 10 or 12-pound line just because the water is so clear. But if you're fishing in the Tennessee River lakes, most of those, they usually have dingier water this time of year. There's times where they can get clear. But you know, I try to use heavier line on those lakes just because I know I can catch a giant fish in there, and you know, you get him hooked, you don't want to lose him. So guys, this is just a real brief video just to show you, talk to you about the importance of red crankbaits at different sizes and stuff. So make sure you got some of these in a boat when you go out. If you're not using red in the springtime, I'm telling you guys, you're really missing it because you need to. And I'm sure a lot of you guys are already using red. A lot of times you're doing it, but you know, there's other baits that can be used in the springtime that are red. But I just wanted to show you some of my best square bills and vibrating baits that I like to use in the spring. So good luck fishing to you guys. Until the next video, we'll see you. Thanks for watching. Please hit that like button. Please subscribe, you guys. If you're looking for a guide trip, it won't be long till I'm back on Chickamauga. I still got a few days left open here on Okeechobee during March, but fishing's been pretty good down here, and I can't wait to get back on Chickamauga and catch some of them giants down there, you guys. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.